Good evening, you're listening to Myth and Mist, your one-stop podcast for killers, thrillers, and chillers of the Midwest today.
Oh,
I'm Haley.
I'm Genevieve.
So this episode will be coming out on June 1st, which happens to be 2 days before June 3rd, which also happens to be the 15th anniversary of the day that Lauren Spierer went missing.
Can you believe it's been 15 years?
No, I can't believe I'm more than 15 years old, to be honest.
I know. Hey, wait. I am. Yeah. Because of this kind of bigger anniversary, Haley suggested that we deviate from our normal kind of format theme, which is Pacific Northwest, because obviously that's where we live now, but we're going to take it back. We're going to take it back to the Midwest for this one.
We are doing this because of the big anniversary, but also because we both happened to live in Bloomington during the time that Lauren Spierer went missing.
We both lived in Bloomington, and we were both about the same age as she was when she went missing.
Mm-hmm.
You were probably 21? So 2011?
Yeah, I was 21.
I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
It hit very close to home. It was very weird.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very weird time.
Yeah, do you remember what it was like living in Bloomington for you at the time?
That was my first summer living in Bloomington, so I had transferred to IU from a school in Philly and mid-year, so I went there winter semester, and then that summer I stayed for the summer and just was working, and I was living in a spare bedroom of this weird couple with this horrible cat named Clara.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't an ideal living situation, but they weren't there very often, so it was mostly just me. It was a lonely summer for me. I didn't have that many friends. My boyfriend at the time had said that he was also going to stay, which was my incentive to stay, and then last minute he was like, oh, JK, I'm leaving, actually.
Perry?
Yeah.
Oh, Perry.
Little fucker. So he left, and so I kind of was just, and I hadn't lived there for very long.
Uh-huh.
Both my parents went to IU, though.
Oh,
so,
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm,
Cool.
Yeah, that's where they met. So I had been going to Bloomington regularly since I was a really little kid. So I felt really comfortable in the town, really comfortable on the campus.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like home.
Yeah.
I just didn't know anybody. So I was mostly just working a lot that summer, working at Laughing Planet, where you also worked, which is where we met.
Mm-hmm.
It was a weird summer. I just was kind of like directionless and lonely. I was just kind of like waiting for summer to be over so that I knew what to do with myself again.
Yeah. Before this, we were talking about how we had both previously worked overnight as a baker for Soma and Laughing Planet. I think I had done it the summer before that, and you were working there that summer. Mm-hmm. But in that position, it was overnight, so we would regularly get out of work at like 2, 3, 4 a.m.
Yeah, sometimes as late as like 5 almost, depending on how much shit we had to bake.
So, we'd be leaving in the middle of the night, but at least in my experience, I would, like, I biked or walked everywhere, and I would bike home.
Yeah, nobody had a car in Bloomington at that time. Everybody biked and walked.
Yeah, I would bike home about a mile or so, and I never once felt unsafe. I would always, like, I used to live on West 17th at the time, and I would pass Kilroy's and Smallwood, which we'll talk about coming up when we talk about the case. But I had personally never felt threatened or afraid of there was always like weird drunken randos. But yeah, I don't know. I always felt completely safe in Bloomington.
I think just because of my history and experiences, I've always been very hyper aware of the possibility of danger, but at the same time, I never actually expected to run into any in Bloomington.
Yeah.
It's one of those places where you're like, it could happen, but it won't. you know?
Yeah.
I was always careful, or tried to be careful, you know, coming back late, especially from that job, because it was kind of a barge, and I usually walked. I'd sometimes ride my bike too, but I never actually felt a sense of fear.
Yeah. Which is...
I never had anything weird happen.
Yeah. And it's like kind of painting the picture of like what Bloomington felt like then in that summer. Like as a woman, it felt mostly safe. Like, oh, shit can happen anywhere. Always be aware of your surroundings. But just having lived there that summer, it felt safe.
Yeah, it felt, I mean, it's really different in the summer than it is during the school year, because it empties out so drastically, and you're really left with the same handful of townies that you see day in, day out.
Yeah.
So you kind of get to it's almost like you live in The Simpsons, you know? You're like,
Yeah.
oh, there's that guy. Oh, there's that lady.
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
you know, and there's a lot of quirkiness, and, you know, a lot of people we didn't particularly care for, but nobody where we were like, stay away from that guy. Like, you know, or
Yeah.
I don't know. It just wasn't, it felt like a very approachable, sleepy little town.
And there were many, many times where I think both of us got pretty sloppy at a bar and then would walk home later. Like,
Absolutely.
which again is
Walk
something that
home,
we're gonna,
bike home,
Yeah.
do weird shit. I remember one time we had worked, and then we went out and got drinks and like got in the sewers somehow and like ran all around the sewers, and at like 3:00 in the morning, just like weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
We just did weird. I mean, it was a small town. There wasn't that much to do. So especially in the summer, you kind of have to make your own fun. But yeah, we absolutely played a little fast and loose with, you know, our safety, but nothing ever happened, and it never I never felt imminent danger living there.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that a little bit, just leading up to us talking about Lauren, because just painting just the point of like, we were doing the same shit as Lauren. Like, it could have happened really to anyone, and it did happen to other women around the time, which we will also touch on. Right? I think you had that. Yeah.
Yes. We'll talk about a little bit of that as well, for sure.
But yeah, do you wanna get started?
Yeah.
Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen.
Buckle up. This is going to be a long one. It's pretty tame in terms of trigger warnings. There's no death mentioned. There's no assault mentioned. There's no anything. No death by suicide. No anything. Little brief mention of drug use. My main source for this research is a book that I don't remember if it came out I think it came out last year. I want to say it was 2025. It's a book by Shawn Cohen. It's called College Girl Missing. And he was an investigative journalist who was working, as this case was breaking, he was working in Bloomington, and then later he would go back to it to write this book. He worked directly with Lauren's mother and father. So this book was published with their blessing, so it's not one of those like kind of gross, tacky, you know, like I don't think he's not trying to be salacious. It's pretty tasteful for the most part. And that being said, a lot of this information is completely new to me, and I followed the case fairly closely and did for a long time as there were updates that developed or, you know, what have you. But a lot of this information was new to me. Hopefully by the time this episode's over, you will be very informed about this case.
I'm excited to learn more about it.
Well, then I guess let's dive in. Just a quick reminder that Lauren would go missing on June 3rd of 2011. Right before that, in Bloomington, like a week before, there were tornadoes that touched down, like in Bloomington. I don't know if you remember that, but
I don't remember that.
yeah, there was crazy tornadoes. It upturned a trailer park somewhere in Monroe County, not in Bloomington proper, but nearby, and I think several people died. The campus itself got totally ravaged. A lot of people were out without power for weeks. So this was right after that had happened. So it was already like, it was just a weird summer. Like the vibe was a little bit weird because there had been these crazy storms, and then like a week later, that's when I started seeing the posters.
Yeah.
So just to kind of set the mood. A little background about Lauren. Lauren Spierer was born January 19th, 1991. She lived with her mother Charlene, her father Robert, and her older sister Rebecca. Her family lived in Edgemont, which is better known as Greenville, New York. If you search for Edgemont, you'll get Greenville. I don't know if the name changed at some point. So I'm going to call it Greenville. Greenville is a hamlet in the town of Greensburg. I didn't know what a hamlet was.
No.
So I had to look it up. It sounded kind of medieval. The direct definition is, quote, a human settlement that is smaller than a town or village. So it sounds like just a very small, very wealthy community in upstate New York. Teeny little population of under 10,000. So really tiny. And although it has a suburban feel and composition, it's actually only about a 40-minute drive from Manhattan. So it's like essentially like a wealthy little private suburb that's right by Manhattan.
Okay.
Needless to say, the Spieers are wealthy, very, very wealthy. Yeah. Her childhood was mostly happy. She was described as a loving and vivacious kid, close with her parents. As she entered high school, she participated in extracurriculars. She did some humanitarian work, including traveling to Louisiana to help rebuild homes after Hurricane Katrina, which I didn't know that. That's really cute. She was diagnosed with a heart condition called long QT syndrome. And this condition causes the two lower chambers or bottom ventricles of the heart to take longer than normal to recover in between beats, which can cause arrhythmia and just make people more prone to having cardiac episodes. So because of her diagnosis, she was discouraged from playing sports or overexerting herself, although she did tend to ignore those warnings. She still played soccer at her summer camp that she would go to every year. It was called Camp Tawanda, and it was a Jewish summer camp. She and her sister went every year. Is in the Poconos in Honesdale, Pennsylvania. So again, Poconos, very wealthy.
Yeah.
Wealthy private camp. She loved the camp though. She looked forward to it every year. And it was at this camp, Camp Tawanda, in 2008, where she met her future boyfriend, Jesse Wolf. So I'm going to warn you guys, there are so many names that I'm going to be throwing at you. So many I'm a white guy names. I had an extremely hard time keeping them all straight. So I'm going to try and do my best to give identifying attributes as I go through these names, because they're really similar. And for me, at least, I couldn't remember which one was which. There's so many.
But Jesse is the boyfriend.
Jesse Wolf is the boyfriend.
Okay.
Yeah. He was a camp counselor. He was 2 years older than her. So she was 17. He was 19 when they met. She was a counselor in training at the time. And because of that, it was very, very against the rules for them to be involved romantically. But they had a little spark between them. And so they started this teenage forbidden romance. They would sneak out at night and meet up in secret.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, this is what you do when you're 17 and 19. It's cute. He was a sophomore at IU, and given their budding romance, Lauren decided to go there as well, mostly so that they could be together. So she applied there and got in, as did a couple of her really good friends that also went to camp with her. So she got in, her friends got in, she was excited. She moved to Bloomington, where she was pursuing a degree in fashion design. We're going to talk about kind of now what happened leading up to June 3rd in 2011, which is, again, the night she went missing. A few days prior to that, her boyfriend, Jesse, was out of town now. So at this point, 2011, she has already been going to school. She's a sophomore. He's getting ready to graduate. June of 2011, Jesse's out of town. He's in Atlanta visiting friends. Lauren ended up riding with a group of friends to Indianapolis for the Indy 500. While at that event, some of Jesse's frat brothers, Jesse, of course, he's in a fraternity.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah. In case you were wondering, they're very rich, they're preppy, they're popular. They're not the kind of people that we would have hung out with.
Yeah.
We were weird. They're those people.
Yeah.
You know? So while at the event, some of Jesse's frat brothers, because he belonged to Alpha Epsilon Pi, texted Jesse, and they were like, she's wearing a, quote, risque outfit, and there is a guy flirting with her. And Jesse was like, hell no. He already knew who the guy was. His name was Corey Rossman. Okay, so now we've got Jesse Wolf, the boyfriend. We're introducing Corey Rossman. Corey was kind of a new acquaintance, not even really a friend, but like just an acquaintance, a friend of a friend that ran in similar circles. According to Jesse's frat buddies, Corey had been cozying up to Lauren that day at the Indy 500, offering her shots and key bumps of cocaine. Jesse texts Lauren and goes, I hear you're dressed provocatively.
Oh, fuck off, dude.
I know. Which they described what she was wearing, too. It was like a Barack Obama 2008 t-shirt that she had, like, cut into a crop top.
Oh,
like,
scandalous.
Yeah, real slutty. She's wearing a fucking t-shirt. Calm down. So he texts her this, which is shitty, obviously, which started a fight between the two of them, rightfully, because she's like, why are you spying on me and being patronizing? It's rude. So whatever, they're fighting now. The fight had fizzled out. They both got back into town. He got back from Atlanta. She got back from Indianapolis, and they ended up spending the night together. So the next day was Thursday. It was a Thursday night, and there was a Dallas Mavericks versus Miami Heat NBA Finals game. And so these people like sports. I mean, they like sports, but they're more so using it as an excuse to, like, drink beer and,
Yeah.
party. Her boyfriend, Jesse, had been texting her all day trying to get her to hang out that day. But Corey Rossman, who's the guy, again, that she was cozying up to, allegedly, in Indianapolis, he had also been texting her, inviting her to a party. It was around 8 p.m., and Lauren and her friend David, so now we've got David in the picture as well, David Rohn. Lauren and her friend David went to a dinner party at, here's another guy, this guy, Scott Schwartz apartment. Now, he lived in Smallwood Apartments, a couple doors down from Lauren.
Oh, do we want to take a second to talk about Smallwood? Smallwood was an apartment complex, like, near downtown Bloomington that was a popular housing
particularly complex. With that certain crowd. It's like where you go if you don't want to be in a frat, but you're like, or a sorority, but you're like kind of frat sorority adjacent, and you're done living in dorms. Yeah. But it was all students. Yeah. For the most part.
All young students. Young students. A lot.
Large building. Yeah. Kind of plain. I think like a brick exterior. I don't know. It looked like, it was just like a big student apartment building. Yeah. Scott Schwartz having a dinner party. Same building. He ended up cooking food for everybody, which I think is, I'm like, that's cute. That's kind of wholesome. He's having a dinner party. So he made, I think, chicken parm. Yeah. And, you know, they had beers and stuff, and they kind of had the game on in the background. Like I said, they were more so using it as an excuse to hang out and drink and socialize. Lauren and David leave her apartment. They go down to the party. Lauren had brought a bottle of white wine that she had. And even though Scott Schwartz had cooked this lovely chicken parm for everyone, Lauren was like, nah, I'm good. She did not eat. She just went straight for the wine and started drinking. So at this point, like I said, it's about 8 and she's starting to drink wine. That'll be important for the timeline.
This is June 3rd that we're on.
This is June. I think technically it's still June 2nd because she goes missing in the early hours of June 3rd.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But it's like about to be June 3rd.
Got it.
Yeah. At midnight, it'll be June 3rd. Got it. While Lauren is at this dinner party, Jesse that's her boyfriend again, is with his own friends watching the basketball game about a mile east of Smallwood Apartments at another house. According to party witnesses, Lauren mentioned that she and Jesse were arguing during the first half of the game. She was on her phone a lot, texting. You know how people text like a specific way when they're frustrated or when they're like fighting. She was very keyed into her phone, texting a lot, kind of like with urgency.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was trying to lock in plans for the night. He just wanted her to come over, essentially. And she was like, you know, she was doing her thing. He seemed like, objectively, he was a lot more invested in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
He was ready to get serious. He had talked about marriage already. She was like, I'm 19.
Yeah.
I'm 20 years old. Like, that's too much.
Yeah.
Like, she's also a very attractive girl, and I think he probably had some insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's at this huge school. She's getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
So it seemed like he kind of wanted to keep her on a shorter leash.
Mm-hmm.
She felt like he was trying to control her. He felt like she didn't prioritize the relationship. So it's kind of like the thing that they always fight about. And
Sure.
tonight they're fighting about it again. By halftime, the bottle of wine Lauren had bought was gone. I'm not sure if she shared any of it or if she drank it all herself. But it was gone. I think it's safe to assume that she drank most of it. She was offered weed, but instead opted for something else. Because upstairs from Scott Schwartz's apartment, where the dinner party was, lived this other guy, Brian O'Connor. You're not going to need to remember his name for very long. He's not huge. But it's like, do you see what I'm saying with all these fucking boys?
Yeah.
Brian was dating Lauren's housemate, whose name was Hadar, and he occasionally sold drugs to Lauren.
Okay.
Brian and his roommate were throwing their own little party in their apartment, so Lauren and her friend David, who she went to the dinner party with, went up there together to buy some drugs, essentially. In Brian's apartment, Lauren ran into another friend who has never been named, was not named in the book. I don't know if they ever got his name. She had been texting him earlier that evening because he was known to sell Xanax. All that was said was that he was a male person that Lauren knew from Great Neck, Long Island. But again, we don't know his name. He told her, I'm out of Xanax, but I know someone who might have some. So he went up to the 6th floor to check. While they're waiting for him to come back down, Brian O'Connor offered to sell Lauren some cocaine. So she bought a gram from him for $40. They step into a bedroom. They made some lines. Lauren and her friend David snored a couple of lines. It didn't say how many, it just said a couple. At one point, Lauren's friend and housemate, Hadar, popped her head in, and she saw that Lauren was doing drugs and was like, hey, be careful. Like, you already had some wine, now you're doing this. I don't know what you're going to do next. But Lauren was like, leave me alone. So she was like, okay. She backed off. Lauren was known to her friends as sort of a tank. She partied frequently and often impressed people by being able to keep up with people twice her size. She was 4'11" and about 95 pounds.
Wow. Yeah.
We all have that one friend, that's tiny, that drinks a lot, that can drink a lot, that maybe likes to party a little too much. And it's really hard to talk that person down once they're kind of on one.
Yeah.
Lauren was that person.
Yeah.
When her friend from Great Neck came back downstairs, the game had gone into third quarter. He told Lauren and David, hey, I couldn't get a hold of any Xanax, but he offered them instead 4 Klonopin. So, in case anybody listening doesn't know what the difference is, or these pharmaceuticals, the details exactly, Xanax and Klonopin, they're both benzodiazepines. They're both used to treat anxiety and panic disorders, typically prescribed by a psychiatrist or a GP, but a lot of people just use them to party and get fucked up. The main difference is that the onset of the drugs, or how rapidly or quickly they take effect after consumption. Xanax works very rapidly, usually in less than an hour, and it's short acting, so effects typically wear off within 4 to 6 hours. Klonopin has a much slower onset, so taking 1 to 4 hours, depending on the dosage. And it's long acting, so it can last from 6 to 12 hours. Xanax, because of this, is typically more addictive, and Klonopin has become the one that's more often prescribed because you don't have to take as much of it and it lasts longer.
Sure, yeah.
For the next hour or so, Lauren was in, quote, a constant state of motion, shuffling back and forth between apartments. She was texting her boyfriend constantly, as well as another person, and he's very important, so we got to remember his name.
Okay.
She was texting her boyfriend constantly, as well as her friend, Jay Rosenbaum.
Okay.
So just to surmise very quickly, we've got Lauren Spierer, obviously, her friend David Rohn, who she went to the dinner party with. We have Corey Rossman, who's the sleazy guy who's trying to get in her pants. Mm-hmm. Now we also have Jay Rosenbaum. Jay had invited Lauren and her friend David to a party at his townhouse that night. And Corey was also going to be there. So again, Corey is the guy that she was flirting with at the Indy 500. Once Lauren and David got back to the dinner party, the two of them crushed up all 4 Klonopin and cut them into 8 lines. They each snorted 2 lines. David stepped away to go to the bathroom, leaving 4 lines left. When he got back from the bathroom, Lauren had snorted the rest.
Holy shit.
It was gone.
That's a lot to put in
a 95 pound 4 foot 11. So now it's somewhere between 11 and midnight. Just to sum up, Lauren has had at the least the majority of a bottle of wine, if not the whole thing. She's done several lines of Coke and the equivalent of like 2.5 to 3 Klonopin. I don't know how strong, like what the milligrams were. Regardless, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot in a very short amount of time. Like I said, the Klonopin takes longer to take effect, so it probably hasn't started working. She's probably not feeling it at all yet. Objectively, that is a terrifying amount of substances for anyone to consume, especially someone who's 4'11", 95 pounds and has a heart disease. Mm-hmm. So at this point, Lauren's boyfriend, Jesse, is still up, hanging out with friends, waiting for a call from Lauren at his frat house, which is just north of campus on North David Baker Avenue. Around this time, Lauren stopped responding to his text, so he's assuming hoping, probably, that she went to bed. But no, she was very much not in bed. Her night was just getting started. Lauren makes the decision to go with her friend David to Jay Rosenbaum's party, where Corey Rossman will also be. She decides she's not meeting up with her boyfriend. She wants to keep the party going. She's having fun. So around midnight, her and her friend David Rohn leave the dinner party at Smallwood Apartments and head to Corey Rossman and Jay Rosenbaum's party at the townhouse. It's not that far. It's like 3 blocks. Lauren is wearing an oversized, kind of flowy white t-shirt, black leggings, ballet flats, and has a little... The book called it a wristlet, but I think it's actually just like a tiny purse or a big wallet that has a strap that you put around your wrist.
Okay.
Inside the purse are her keys, her fake ID, and her iPhone. She has a key card that gets her physically into Smallwood, but then she also has like regular keys that would get her into the apartment.
Okay.
The purse is tiny and the iPhone barely fits, so she can't zip it all the way. That's important to remember for later. Lauren and her friend David head to the townhouse, which again is about 3 blocks north of Smallwoods. It's about a 7-minute walk. It's still fairly busy outside. They arrive at the party. There's probably a dozen people or so inside drinking, socializing, what have you. The 2 hosts again, we have Jay Rosenbaum, whose apartment it actually is, and he's hosting with his friend Corey, who lives just across the way. I'm just going to call them Jay and Corey because the last names are so similar.
Yeah.
Corey is from Massachusetts. He already kind of has a reputation as a player. He's not being at all subtle about his interest in Lauren. Jay is someone she's known for a while. They first met in her hometown in New York when he was visiting some friends that went to her school. By all accounts, Lauren thought of him as just a friend, but he had told her friend David that he was also interested in her. So she's got all of these guys. It seems like the only guy that's not trying to fuck Lauren is her friend David.
Yeah.
So clearly both of these guys are interested, but it seems on this night, Lauren is more interested in pursuing Corey. She and Jay are just friends. Now they're at the party. Her friend David goes to talk to someone, leaving Lauren unattended. At this point, she's already visibly intoxicated. So what does Jay do? Immediately, he offers her a shot, which she takes. So now she's had a shot. We will lose count of how many drinks she has. But needless to say, if I drank a bottle of wine in an hour, I'd be fucked.
Yeah.
I'd be fucked. With food.
Yeah.
I'd still.
At that point in my life, when I was around that time period, I could put back quite a bit because I drank often and a lot. But a bottle of wine, a shot I can't imagine having that and all those drugs. in my
Several
system,
lines of
too.
coke
Yeah.
and 2.5
Yeah.
to 3 Klonopin, which again probably haven't started working yet. But.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to shame. She's in college. She's partying.
Yeah.
She's definitely overdoing it. It seems very self-destructive, but I'm not trying to shame her.
Yeah.
I'm just like trying to keep track of everything so that we
Yeah.
know at the end of the night what kind of state she's in.
Yeah.
So immediately after she has the shot, Corey, fucking snaky little bitch, moves in, monopolizing Lauren's attention. At one point, Lauren starts to get a little bit sloppy. She spills a drink on herself. And Corey's like, oh no, you spilled. You know, I could totally, we could just go throw your shirt in my dryer. And Lauren goes, great, let's go. So she follows him out of Jay's apartment. It's like 15 steps to Corey's door. They go in. Here's another person. Corey's roommate, Mike, is there. So in front of both of them, Lauren whips her shirt off right now. So she's in her bra and leggings, just in there. Corey puts the shirt in the dryer in the hallway. The two of them are sitting on the couch, sitting kind of close, and he's talking to her, trying to convince her to go to the bar with him. At this point, her friend David noticed that she was gone, so he goes to find her. He walks in and sees her in this compromising position with this slimy little bitch. She's in her bra. Obviously, she's a little bit fucked up already, so he's like, what are you doing? He grabs the shirt out of the dryer. He's like, put your clothes on. At this point, the party next door is winding down, and he's like, I'm ready to go home. He tells Lauren, let's go. We're going back to Smallwood. Let's call it a night. She's like...
what? Like, actually good friends, seemingly?
Yeah. Of all of the people,
Yeah.
seems to be the least problematic.
Yeah.
Lauren's like, nah, I'm not done. I want to keep drinking. We're going to the bars. He's like, I'm not going. I'm tired. It's late. I'm drunk. I don't want to. You should really come back with me. But she is adamant. Nope. She is going. At that point, David can see Lauren's phone is kind of popping out of her little purse. And he actually says, quote, you're going to lose your phone. So he tries again to convince her, please just go back with him. She is not having it. She's going out. He can't convince her, so he ends up leaving around 1:45. He texts Lauren, be careful. Let me know if you need me. That's all he can do.
Also worth noting, I know every state has their own liquor laws, but in Bloomington, bars closed at 3 a.m.
Yep. So they usually do last call around 2:45.
Yep.
Lauren and Corey leave shortly after to go to sports. You remember sports?
I remember sport. It's between Walnut and College.
Yeah, it's
like
I think 7th and Walnut.
I think so.
Yeah,
That seems right.
either way, it's very close. Like they're not covering great distances,
Yeah,
you know,
all
like
within a mile.
it's very
Less.
very close.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably
like
less than a mile.
7-8 blocks.
Yeah.
Sports was owned by the same people that owned this other bar called Kilroy's on Kirkwood, which everybody just called KOK. It's a really douchey bar. They're both really douchey bars. I probably went to KOK twice, and I think I went to Sports once.
Yeah. It was the kind of bar that the type of people who live at Smallwood go to those bars. Like
It's the kind of
drunk
bar
college students
that doesn't give a fuck about serving people who are not 21.
Yeah.
Serving people who are falling down drunk. It's also, and this is, I'm not making this up, the kind of bar where in 2010, 2011, 2012, they had a $1 Long Island night that came in mini pitchers. So you could buy a mini pitcher of Long Island for $1. And there was no limit to how many they would serve you.
Damn, drinking in Bloomington during those years was peak. It
was
honestly awesome.
Unreal. $1 Long Islands in a mini pitcher. And they had a full flavor menu. You could pick watermelon. You could pick what the fuck ever. You imagine it, dream it. Cotton candy, they'll make it for you for $1. Just absolutely unhinged. So if that's giving you kind of an idea of the kind of the kinds of bars that these were, that they were going to, it's like that. They're not going to a dive bar. They're not going to shoot pool. They'd be drinking. Mm-hmm. They got in right away, even though Lauren isn't 21. She's 20. She had a fake ID. I don't know if it's her sister's old ID or if someone made her. It doesn't matter. Either way, it worked. They get right in. They go to the back because if you go straight through the bar, there's a patio area in the back that looks like a fake beach. I don't know if you remember this. There was sand and like fake palm trees and shit, like beach balls.
Yep.
Lauren immediately kicks off her shoes so she can like put her feet in the sand while Corey goes and gets them more drinks. At about 2:30 is when they end up leaving the bar. So they're only there for like 30 to 45 minutes. When they leave, Lauren can barely walk. Already, she can barely walk as they're leaving. She's barefoot because she forgot her shoes on the patio. So the shoes are gone. She also forgot her phone because that shit fell out of her purse into the sand. It didn't make a noise. So her shoes and her phone, they're at the bar. She does still have her purse at this time, which had the keys and the key card. The key card is actually on a lanyard around her neck. So she's got her purse and her keys, her phone and her shoes are gone. Lauren and Corey walk back to Smallwood Apartments where, again, Smallwood is where they live, is where Lauren lives. It's about only a 15-minute walk. They swipe her card. They go inside, take the elevator up to the 5th floor where her apartment was located. They get off the elevator only a few feet from Lauren's apartment. Again, she's almost falling down at this point. He's much more steady on his feet. Why are they going back to her apartment? You tell me. Seems very shady of him. She starts having a really hard time staying upright and wanted to stop so she could like lean against the wall and get her bearings. And Corey's like, no, keep going, walk. We're almost there. Let's get inside. Although we'll never know the ultimate motive, with certainty as to why they were going back to her apartment or why Corey was so adamant about getting her in there as soon as possible. I think we can all agree that it was likely not so that he could fix her a snack, tuck her in, and say goodnight. He's being shady.
Yeah.
He separated her from her friends. He took her to another location, just the two of them. He got her more fucked up. Now he's leading her back to an empty apartment. It's fucking gross. She's fucked up. She can barely stand. She can barely speak. She needs to probably go to a hospital. Let's be real. Yeah. She's fucked up. So this guy's slimy. As they're in the hallway, he's trying to open her door. She's struggling to stay upright, so he's kind of holding her up, struggling with the keys. Elevator door opens, and out step these 4 young guys, also students. One of them was her boyfriend Jesse's frat brother. His name was Adam Weiner. They knew each other. He greeted her, and she didn't even seem to acknowledge he was speaking to her. She was just like, dead eyes. He tries to get her attention, waves a hand in front of her face. He's like, hello. But again, she's completely unresponsive. So he asks what she's doing with this guy, meaning Corey. Corey says, nah, it's cool, man. I got her. And another one of the guys speaks up and is like, the fuck you do? We know this girl. She's our friend. Just take her back to her apartment and get out of here. To which Corey goes, I said I got this. Can you just picture it?
Yeah, I can picture it.
An argument ensues, basically with these guys telling Corey to fuck off and Corey just saying over and over again that he's got this. He's got this. He's got her. He's refusing to leave. One of the 4 guys, named Zach Oakes, end up getting pissed. He's a big burly dude. He's had enough, and he just decks Corey right in the face.
Oh, yeah.
Punches him right in the face, lays him out on his ass. He falls to the ground. So the other guys go, oh, shit, because there's cameras in the hallway. So they're like, we got to get out of here right now. We're going to get in trouble. So they bail. They run into their apartment across the hall, leaving Lauren. At this point, she's fallen on the ground, too. Lauren's on the ground. Corey's on the ground. Those guys have run off. Corey gets up, he kind of gets his bearings, then he helps Lauren up, and the two of them end up leaving Smallwood together. So by now it's coming up on 3 a.m. This is the last time that Lauren would be seen on camera coming out of the lobby of her building. So they're both having a hard time walking. Lauren is clearly much worse off. She's holding on to Corey for dear life. He's leading her back now towards his townhouse, 3 blocks up the street. So they take a left up College Avenue. I think his intention at this point is to just get them both somewhere because he's realizing that he's not doing so hot and Lauren is fading in and out of consciousness. So they make it about a block before turning off into a dark alley near the Farmer House Museum. Do you remember the Farmer House Museum?
No, I don't.
It's just right on 10th and College. It's like a really funny little museum, like an agriculture museum.
Oh, I had no idea.
I went there once, yeah.
Cool.
So right there is another apartment building where Corey knew some girls that lived. They were kind of mutual friends of his and Lauren's that they'd just seen at the party. So he's like, this is closer than my apartment. Like, I just got to get her in somewhere. He tries the door, which is unlocked. He ends up physically carrying Lauren up the stairs to the second floor. Knocks on their door, but they don't answer. They've either gone to bed or they're not home. So he carries her back down the stairs to the parking lot of this apartment complex and through a nearby alley. Lauren comes to and attempts to try and walk on her own, but she doesn't get very far before she has to stop and sit down. Corey's like, no, you gotta get up. Well, at this point, she slips and falls backward, and smack, she hits her head right on the concrete. She goes down hard. Back of her head.
I didn't know this.
Bam. Hard. So hard that a bartender who was just getting off work hears her head hit the concrete.
Holy
and
shit.
is like, is she okay? She directly addresses Lauren and says, are you okay? Lauren doesn't say anything, probably because she's just suffered a concussion. Corey, on the other hand, is like, yeah, she's fine. She's just drunk. And for whatever reason, the bartender's like, okay, and leaves. For me, this was like the hardest part to hear.
Yeah.
As a bartender myself, this is reprehensible. Especially to see another woman in this very compromising position. I hope that that bartender, whoever she was, realizes the scope of how badly she fucked up that night to find an unconscious girl in the hands of some guy. You've just seen and heard her suffer a head injury. You have no idea how she got in this situation. If he drugged her, he could be abducting her. He could be a stranger. And you're just going to be like, shit, bye.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fucked up.
The fuck?
What bar's right there? Do we know who that bartender
I don't
was?
know where she was coming out of. Could have been sports. Who knows?
Yeah.
Whatever. She decides to leave. So Corey picks Lauren up again. He carries her through another alley that led back up to his townhouse. Puts her down. She takes a couple of steps, drops her purse. She bends down to pick it up. She falls again. She falls forward this time. So first time she fell backwards. This time she face plants right on the sidewalk face first. He's like, no. He picks her up. She fell for a third time. I don't know if she hit her head the third time, but she's hit the back of her head and she's hit the front of her head. Very hard, right on the pavement. So Corey picks her up. He kind of props her up against a dumpster. At 2:55, he takes out his phone. He makes a call to a number in his hometown of Sharon, Massachusetts. Call went to voicemail, so he hangs up. We'll talk about who he was calling closer to the end. So he picks her up again. This time he throws her over his shoulder, like fireman style. He carries her one more block to his townhouse, which again is on the corner of 11th and Morton, which is just 3 blocks from where Lauren lives. And this is where things get weird, because there were no witnesses around there at 3 a.m. Nothing was captured on camera. Corey allegedly got Lauren back into his residence, and she was never seen again.
Oh. Yeah, there are so many details there that I had never heard before.
Aside from Lauren, there were 4 other people around the townhouse at that time. So Corey Rossman, who just dragged her back there. Mm-hmm. Jay Rosenbaum, Corey's roommate Mike Beth, and this guy, I'll call him by his last name because it's weird and memorable, Blesnick. That was Jay's friend. He had 2 friends that were at the party that night that were visiting from Michigan. That was one of the friends. And he had been at the party, like I said earlier. So he was still there. Just to summarize, because I know that was a ton of information to throw at you. That evening, they start with the dinner party at Smallwood, where Lauren lives. Lauren and her friend David leave the dinner party. They go to Jay's party in the townhouse, where he lives next to Corey. They briefly go into Corey's unit, where Corey puts her shirt in the dryer. His roommate Mike Beth is there for that interaction. Corey and Lauren leave to go to the bar, Sports. They leave the bar and go back to Smallwood and try and go into Lauren's apartment. Corey gets punched in the face. They leave Smallwood and start heading back to Corey's townhouse. They briefly stop at the other apartment complex where they try and get in because he knows girls that live there. No one answers the door. They stop briefly in the parking lot, in the alley. Lauren falls, hits the back of her head. They stop in an alley again where Lauren falls 2 more times, hitting the front of her head. In that alley, Corey makes a phone call to a friend in his hometown. They end up back at Corey's townhouse where he lives with Mike Beth. At some point, Jay and his visiting friend, Blesnick, get involved in this situation, in whatever happened to Lauren. They all attest to this. Because remember, they live really close by. Mm-hmm. So at some point in that night, she ends up in their apartment, which is where the party was. Corey's lawyer would later claim that Corey suffered memory loss due to alcohol and from getting hit in the face by those guys in the elevator. Jay and Mike Beth give a vague and sketchy account of what happened to Lauren, which is they both give slightly different accounts. So we're going to go over it. They couldn't, either of them, say exactly how or why Lauren ended up in Jay's apartment because, again, Jay and Corey don't live together. Sorry, I just need to keep reiterating because this shit gets so confusing.
Yeah.
Around 4 a.m., 2 phone calls were made from Jay's phone. One to Lauren's friend David, and one to Scott Schwartz, the guy who sold her the drugs. None of the 4 guys ever said who made those calls. Or, I mean, they could never agree on who made the calls. Nor could they say what they were about or why they were made. Jay said that once Lauren got inside his apartment, she was adamant about going home. She was awake, she was conscious, she's going back to her apartment. He said he made her walk a straight line to show that she was sober enough to get home, and she could do it. She passed this little sobriety test, and he watched her walk out the front door and into the night. He said, initially, he was standing at the door, he watched her walk out the front door. He would later change his story and say that he'd actually gone upstairs to where he had a little balcony connected to his room and watched her from the balcony, calling out to text him when she found her phone. Either way, he says she left. He watched her hit the intersection at 11th and College past a construction site. In a later interview, he said he saw, quote, a shadowy figure standing on the corner. Mike Beth, so that's Corey's roommate, said he'd been working on paper in his room. Around 3:45, he got a call from Jay. He walked over and found Jay and his visiting friend Blesnick hanging out, talking about their evening, kind of winding down. Blesnick, he claimed, said goodnight to them around 4, and Jay went into the kitchen, made himself a sandwich, at which point he left. He went back to his and Corey's place. When he got back, he realized Lauren and Corey had returned. Lauren wasn't doing well. So he called Jay to let them know they had made it home, but Lauren was a mess and they needed help, at which point Jay was like, bring her over to my place. He would also later attest that it was Jay who called David Rohn and Scott Schwartz that night. He said Lauren couldn't find her phone or her shoes, saying, quote, I only have this stuff on me, i.e. her key card, which got her into the building, and her fake ID. The keys had fallen out of her purse when she dropped it, so her purse is gone. All she has is her key card and her fake ID. It would later be noted also by police that Mike seemed particularly nervous and fidgety during his interview. Jay would later change his story and say that he and Blesnick had gone out to Sports, the same bar, for a bit, where they did see Lauren and Corey from a distance hanging out and drinking. He said they got back around 3:30 and immediately got ready for bed. He claimed that as he was putting on his pajamas, he got a call from Mike saying that Corey had just gotten home with Lauren and they needed help taking care of her. So according to him, the brief hangout, him making the sandwich, none of that happened. He said Lauren was the one who called David and Scott from his phone, not him.
What a weird clusterfuck of information.
Yeah, so they're all kind of like giving a story that's pretty similar, but there are these little details, and some of them aren't that little. Like, you'd know if Lauren made a phone call versus if Jay made a phone call.
And there's also no way that after all that, she was able to walk in a straight line.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, so she was unconscious basically when they're walking back there, and then she hits her head twice. If anything, best case scenario, she's gonna sleep for 24 hours. Worst case scenario, like, she needs to go to the hospital because she's concussed. Also, at this point, the Klonopin is probably kicking in.
Yeah.
Jay also specifically mentioned Lauren having her fake ID and her Smallwood key card, saying he actually took them from her and placed them on the doorknob to the front door so that she couldn't possibly leave without them. He's like, here, I'm putting these here so that when you go out the front door, you have to touch them to get out so you can't lose them. So if you believe this basic version of events, these guys still suck, right?
Yeah.
This tiny, blacked out, fucked up girl walking home 4 a.m. She has no shoes, no purse, no keys to get into her apartment, no phone. Like, she says she's going home. Even if she could get home and get into the building, she can't get into her apartment because she doesn't have keys.
Yeah.
And she can't call anyone to let her in because she doesn't have a phone. Let's say she does pass whatever arbitrary, clearly fake, non-existent sobriety test. Like I said, how's she going to get into her apartment?
Yeah.
One possibility is that Jay called David and Scott to see if they were awake so they could let her in. Again, because she had no key and no phone. So perhaps they called on her behalf to be like, hey, she's walking home. Can you come down and let her in? But, I mean, that would be fine and that would make sense. So then why say that Lauren had called? So that, like, you know, that already, like, discredits itself. I think it's probably more likely that they called them to try and figure out what she had taken because she wasn't doing well.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that later. Basically, Lauren was carried into Corey's townhouse and was never seen again. And typically the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. We are definitely going to get into some alternative theories because there are a few of those as well. And some of them are quite interesting. Now it's the morning of June 3rd. From the sound of it, the only person that started to panic immediately was Lauren's boyfriend, Jesse. I guess it wasn't super uncommon for Lauren to be MIA the night after she partied really hard. She tended to just sleep it off at a friend's house. These kids are all very extroverted with a wide social network, so she really could have been anywhere. She could have gone to anybody's couch, hypothetically, and crashed and, like, slept it off. But Jesse was frantically trying to reach her. When he finally got an answer, though, on her phone, it was not Lauren. It was an employee that worked at the sports bar saying that they had found her phone. According to Jesse, Lauren had had a really sketchy close call a couple of months prior. He'd gotten a call from one of her roommates that she was fucked up, and he'd gone and picked her up from a party, physically picked her up, and carried her back to her apartment where she threw up and convulsed. He opted not to call an ambulance, though, because he was afraid she'd get expelled since she was already on academic probation for a prior partying infraction. I think he was probably more afraid that if she did get in trouble, she'd be upset with him and maybe want to break up. So to me, it sounds like equal parts concern and self-interest.
Sure.
You know?
Still shit. I mean, regardless, it's a shitty position for him to be put in.
Yes, it is. But I'm like, she's convulsing.
Yeah.
You could call 911.
Yeah, for sure.
So he's basically starts spreading the word, like, I can't get a hold of Lauren, she's missing. He calls around to all of her friends. They start a little, quote, informal search party, and they went looking for her. This included her roommate, Hadar, and David Rohn, the friend from the night before.
The only good people in this fucking story.
Seriously. It was one of her friends who actually found her keys in the alley where she had dropped them.
Wow.
So can you imagine just being like, oh, here's her keys? How bizarre, how jarring. At this point, they still can't find her, and they do eventually report her missing to the police, and her boyfriend alerts her family.
Was there a point where he had reached out to Corey and that crew of people?
No, because he didn't know that that's where she was the night before.
Okay, so no one had reached out to them during
this,
right?
He reached out to David.
Yeah.
And I think David or her roommate reached out to Corey and Jay. And they acted very surprised and were like, yeah, we don't know. We saw her last night. She left, but we assumed she got home.
Interesting. Okay.
Her parents, Charlene and Robert, and her older sister, Rebecca, were informed, and they immediately jumped on a plane to Indiana. As they're urgently trying to get to Bloomington, concrete was being poured on the construction site next to Corey's townhouse, and it was also trash day. So all the dumpsters had been emptied that morning, and trash was en route to a transfer station and then to an enormous landfill outside Terre Haute.
Oh.
Where you're from.
Yeah. Hey.
These are just some details to keep in mind for future theories and explanations. So the very next day, concrete is poured on this building site, construction site, and all of the trash dumpsters are emptied. It's all getting taken to a huge landfill. By the time her parents reached Bloomington, police had already deployed dogs to sniff Lauren's building and follow what they knew of the general path she had taken. They'd talked to the security office in her building and were waiting on CCTV footage from that night, but they didn't really have any leads. It was very early on in the investigation, so the Spieers, I'm sure, feeling very frantic and helpless at this point, they go to Flyer Town. They made hundreds of flyers, made posters with Lauren's face, and they got volunteers to help them cover the campus. I'm sure you remember seeing them all over town.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I remember when I saw the first one, it was on a telephone pole. And I was like, wait, someone's missing?
Yeah.
Someone went missing?
Yeah, I have vague memories of it.
It was also the first time I had ever watched Twin Peaks, and so I was drawing a lot of correlations to... Why can't I think of her name right now? The Twin Peaks girl. Sarah Palmer. That's her name? No. Laura Palmer. Yeah. Laura and Lauren. Yeah. I was like...
Wow.
I literally just finished watching it. And I was like, and now this blonde girl is missing. This is surreal. In the days and weeks that followed, people flocked to Bloomington to look for Lauren. Her best friends and her other housemates, because she lived with 3 other girls, Blair Wallach and Alex Steinberg, flew back from New York. Blair's account of their friendship is particularly heartbreaking. Rhubarb.
Hey, Rhubarb.
I love you, but go away.
Rhubarb, nope. Not
Rhubarb,
the time.
I have to read about Lauren Spiere's disappearance.
God, your name's not Lauren. Rhubarb.
Rhubarb, go away.
Come here.
There you go. Good girl.
Rhubarb has theories and she's trying to share
Rhubarb
them.
has a lot to say. Okay.
Oh, Lily, your breath.
Her best friends and other housemates, Blair Wallach and Alex Steinberg, flew back from New York. Blair's account of their friendship is particularly heartbreaking. She said she met Lauren at summer camp when they were just 9-year-old kids. She recalled playing with stuffed animals and making, quote, potions together.
Aww.
It seemed she knew Lauren beyond her partying and had a deeper, more wholesome connection that she was terrified as her friend's missing. Still, other volunteers didn't know Lauren at all, including Eric Berman. His daughter Jill went missing near Bloomington in May of 2000, riding her bike in a rural area of Monroe County. She was 19. 3 years later, her remains were located just outside Martinsville, Indiana. And in 2005, police arrested John Myers II for her murder, which, personally, I'm not convinced that he did it, but that's a story for another episode. Eric searched and hung up flyers alongside Lauren's friends and family and said, quote, "It brings back memories." The statements from the 4 young men last seen with Lauren were taken initially, but they quickly stopped talking and sought counsel pretty much immediately. Like, they were like, "Oh yeah, sure, happy to help." They sat for an interview, and then the police were like, "Hey, we have a few more questions." And they were like, "Nope, talk to my lawyer." And that was the end of it. This is not indicative of guilt, obviously. It's exactly what you should do in a situation where police are questioning you. It's what I would do. It's what I would tell my friends or family to do. It is what it is, but it's not great for their investigation because they're all real shady.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Rosenbaum was fairly open in the first few days, giving up his cell phone and credit card statements upon request and participating in 2 ride-alongs with police to retrace Lauren's activity. After that, he lawyered up in a big way. He actually retained Jim Voiles as his lawyer, who defended Mike Tyson in 1992 when he was accused of rape.
Yeah.
Like,
these are very rich people.
These kids are fucking rich.
Yeah.
In case you forgot. Corey Rossman also retained a lawyer and clammed up local prosecutor Carl Salzman. His attorney claimed that Corey had absolutely no recollection of the events that happened after he got punched in the face. He said, quote, "He got punched in the face. He has no memory of that or of the 15 minutes leading up to that moment. The first memory he has is the next morning when he wakes up in bed, and that's corroborated by several people. Plenty of things weren't adding up.
Yeah.
There were certainly leads to pursue, but there was no evidence to speak of, and again, no one is talking. Lauren's boyfriend Jesse was very involved in searching for Lauren the first week. When investigators talked with him, he said Jay had told him that he was the one who had called David and Scott Schwartz, not Lauren. So Jay told the police that Lauren made these calls. Now he's telling Lauren's boyfriend that he did it. Why? Who knows? Maybe because it's all bullshit and he can't keep his lies straight.
Yeah.
He acknowledged that Jesse, the boyfriend, acknowledged that their relationship had been strained of late and that their priorities seemed to have shifted. He also admitted that he knew that Corey had his sights set on Lauren, and when Lauren stopped responding to his texts that night, he did become suspicious that she was maybe stepping out on him. Jesse and his frat brothers recounted the night as having been at a party on the corner of 8th and Park, about 3 blocks from their frat house, watching the basketball game. Most of them were drinking or smoking weed, or some combination of the two, except for Jesse, who was sober. This is the same story. They all told the same story. After the game was over, Jesse went back to his frat house on 9th and Fess, chatted with his roommate Zach for a bit, and then they both went to bed sometime between 1:30 and 3. However, one fraternity brother, Aaron Greenberg, had a completely different story.
Oh.
He said that he and Jesse watched the game by themselves at their house. They did not go to the party on 8th and Park. He said they watched the full game together, smoking and drinking the entire time. Aaron says he went to bed around 3 a.m. He claims that he thought Jesse went to bed too, but he could not be certain, and he could not account for his whereabouts after 3 a.m. Bloomington Police Department would later call Aaron on the glaring discrepancies between these two stories. They're like, you're telling us this, all of these other fraternity brothers are saying this other story. You're the only one where it's different. And he was shocked. And he said that his version of events was the truth, but he did acknowledge that he was drunk that night and maybe he had been confused. It's like,
That's not what alcohol does to
no.
you.
Like, I don't know. Did you take like 12 hits of acid
Yeah.
too? Because what you're describing then would be a hallucination.
Yeah.
Not like a misremembering.
Huh.
I don't know. It's weird. It's weird that there was one person that said, it's completely different. I don't know. Jesse and his parents met with Lauren's family the first time. It was the first time their parents had ever met, actually. Like, what a horrible circumstance.
Yeah.
They both agreed that Jesse should undergo a polygraph just to clear his name, and they talked about scheduling one as soon as possible. The next day, Lauren's mom, Charlene, got a text from Jesse's mother. It's less than 24 hours after their meeting. It said, quote, "We need to go. Jesse needs to leave." And they got on a plane and went back to New York. That was it. They got a lawyer. No more talking to police. Absolutely no polygraph.
Huh.
That was that. Police were then at the mercy of waiting for tips and reviewing the CCTV footage from the night that Lauren went missing. Unfortunately, it proved a real pain in the ass to obtain the footage from Smallwood. The head of the complex, this is actually really funny, the head of the complex's security team would not allow police to access their files. The police were like, "Hey, can we get those? It's about a missing person." And they were like, "No." So police had to wait several days for a warrant. And when they showed up to serve it, the employee working in the security office locked the door and still wouldn't let them come in.
Whoa.
They're like, "We have a warrant." And they're like, "Don't care." Bloomington Police Department was forced to return and physically break down the door with a battering ram.
Fascinating.
It's just really funny to me because Indiana has some of the strictest, most arbitrary laws and some of the harshest sentences for people who break those laws. And generally highly problematic, kind of backwards-ass politics leaning towards a bootlicking agenda.
Uh-huh.
So the fact that all of these people either aren't saying shit to the police or are actively trying to impede their investigation is kind of wild.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you've lived in Indiana or the Midwest, I mean, it's just weird.
Yeah.
They love cops.
Yeah.
Love
I mean, more
cops.
so outside of Bloomington. Bloomington's pretty...
Bloomington is liberal, but these types of people,
Yeah.
I can't imagine they're like getting ACAB tattoos. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. They're very normal, very like
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Despite their investigative efforts, the case quickly began to go cold. Then, 12 days after Lauren went missing, police announced a new lead. There was a white Chevy Silverado truck. I don't know if you've heard about this, the truck theory.
I'm not sure.
That was seen on CCTV footage around 4:15 heading west on 10th Street. It doubled back at approximately 4:25, so this truck seemed to be circling the area within a block of Lauren's last known whereabouts. Police really got tunnel vision on this. They honed in on it and asked the community for help identifying the driver of the truck, and the public went crazy with it. Bloomington police received hundreds of tips, I think like over 500 tips within the next several days about who this truck could belong to. This coupled with a witness who told police she had heard a woman scream that night around that time. So they're like, now they're thinking, okay, abduction, stranger abduction. Eventually, police were able to track down the owner of that truck. However, it amounted to absolutely nothing because it turned out that the timestamp on that footage was not correct. It was faulty. The truck wasn't actually in that area at that time. So there goes that theory. And police are back to square one. Tensions were high going into another week of no new leads. The public was generally getting pretty angry, as were Lauren's parents. At this point, they were starting to put blame on Bloomington police for not being thorough enough in their questioning of the 4 young men who had last been in contact with Lauren. Police Chief Michael, I don't know how to say his last name, Diekhoff, Dykoff? I don't know. I'm going to say Dykoff. If it's wrong, I don't care. Police Chief Michael Dykoff in particular faced a lot of criticism, partially because he was in charge of Jill Berman's missing persons case as well, and he botched the shit out of that one. So people were like, you just are inept.
Yeah.
At handling missing persons cases.
The missing biker? Okay.
Yeah. And it took them years to figure out what was going on with that, and they found her body. And
interesting. There was another missing woman who went missing like a month before Lauren Spierer.
There was a woman named Crystal, and I'm blanking on her last name, who also went missing. I don't know if it was from Bloomington or if it was like a place. It was like nearby Bloomington. I want to say it was like Crystal Gibbs or something.
From what I read on, I think on like a Facebook post or something, it was right before she was still missing when, this is a tangent, but she was still missing when Lauren was getting all the press, and the other missing woman's family was supposed to share like a press conference with Lauren Spierer's family, but at the end of the conference, like after the Spierer family spoke, they immediately like stopped it, so the other family didn't get a chance to speak. And I wish I would have spent some time to look into this as well, because I think it's just an example of how like the Bloomington police just how mishandled everything was around this time.
Totally. And I mean, obviously Lauren's case is going to get a ton of press and a ton of publicity because she's rich. She's white, blonde, attractive, affluent family. Rhubarb is pissed. She's pissed that these other cases aren't getting the attention they deserve.
That's right.
I also remember hearing around the time that they were searching for Lauren in Lake Monroe that they pulled out a bunch of other bodies. None of them were Lauren's, but they pulled out a bunch of other bodies, and it didn't get any publicity because they're like, well, none of these are Lauren. Like,
put them back in.
Yeah, fuck it. Now, 2 months into the investigation, police were able to obtain a warrant to search the Sycamore Ridge landfill, which again is the giant landfill outside Terre Haute where Bloomington's garbage pickup would have ended up the day that Lauren went missing. At this point, though, it's kind of like, what's the point? It's been months in the heat of summer. They did search nonetheless, although their search didn't yield any results. I have a quote here from former employee Larry Baker.
You're talking about hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of trash disposed there daily from 5 different counties. That's like looking for a needle in a haystack, honestly.
Were they looking for her body?
Okay. Yeah, because if you remember, the trash got picked up the next morning before anybody even knew she was missing.
Yeah.
So someone could have easily thrown her in a dumpster, and that's the end of it.
Huh. Yeah.
Having lost all faith in Bloomington police's abilities to bring home their daughter, Lauren's parents hired private investigator Bo Dietl. I love that name.
That's such a good
name. So fun. He and his team flew in from New York and got to work, and they're very they're like New York private investigators. No nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're fucking here. They ended up clashing with Bloomington Police Department almost immediately. I guess they had arranged a meeting with Chief Michael Dykoff, and he kept them waiting for 20 minutes, which pissed them the fuck off, because they're like old school hotheads, so it really didn't go over well. During their meeting, Bo Dietl and his team made it clear that whatever leads they found, they would turn over to BPD, but they were there as another resource, to offer investigative assistance. And from my understanding, Chief Michael Dykoff basically told them to go fuck themselves. The next morning, Bo Dietl called into Good Day New York, which is like a local morning show in New York, so he could discuss updates on Lauren's case. And on air, he compared Chief Michael Dykoff to Gomer Pyle.
Oh, wow.
So, it got real ugly. It's hilarious. But as summer ended, fall semester began, classes resumed at IU. Jay Rosenbaum became a sort of social pariah around campus. He would show up at parties and be told he had to leave. He was getting threats constantly from Jesse's fraternity brothers. He spent a lot of time drinking by himself at Jake's. Remember Jake's?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a depressing thought. One of Lauren's friends, a girl named Taylor Valentine, ran into him at a bar, and they talked for a bit, and he insisted on bringing Taylor back to his townhouse, which I'm like, don't go.
No, red flag.
But it was fine. But I'm like, I wouldn't have gone. He said he'd walk her through the whole night and vehemently denied any implications in her disappearance. So according to Taylor, Jay described what happened with Corey earlier in the evening. He had just gotten back to Jay's with Lauren, and she was laying down on the couch. Then he stopped and went off on a tangent about how Lauren had probably been murdered by an unknown person who had killed other people in Bloomington. He didn't go into any further detail, but insisted on this as not a theory, but absolutely the truth. He then mentioned to Taylor that Lauren had been so messed up that night she'd thought an iPod on his dresser was a cell phone and repeatedly tried to make calls on it. He claimed she took the iPod with her when she left because she was certain that it was her phone. Now, if that's true, if she was that fucked up, do you really think that she would be able to walk a straight line?
Yeah.
Do you think this sounds like someone who is coherent enough to find their way home by themselves in the dark? Probably not. When Taylor asked him if he mentioned to the police that Lauren had left with the iPod, Jay said yes, but police said no, he did not. You can track an iPod, so that would have been helpful information to know.
Yeah.
If it was true. I'm not certain if anything ever really came of this ultimately. It's just another weird, seemingly innocuous discrepancy that doesn't make any sense and kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth. That December, private investigator Bo Dietl and his team had arranged to meet with Jesse Wolfe again, the boyfriend. He was due to graduate soon, and they wanted a chance to interview him one more time before he left Bloomington. At this point, he'd moved out of the frat house and was living alone in an apartment. The day before they were supposed to meet, Jesse dipped. He left and went back to New York. Again, apparently leaving behind a bunch of his belongings in the apartment that he never went back to collect. Among those things were several articles of clothing that had belonged to Lauren, along with her toothbrush, and a weird document that police definitely sort of fixated on. It was this article called The Killing of Kristen, which is an article about this woman, Kristen Lardner, who was murdered by her abusive boyfriend in the 90s. I searched for the article myself, but couldn't find anything specifically with that name. I did find a Washington Post article titled The Stalking of Kristen, which I linked in the show notes if you want to read it. He could have had this article for any reason. It doesn't implicate him. It could be a coincidence, but it's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe he needed it for school. It's just weird. The suspicion was, they were like, are you like doing research?
Yeah.
Like, are you trying to learn from this guy what to do, what not to do? Like, I don't know. In March of 2012, Charlene Spierer wrote a letter on her blog addressed to the person responsible for Lauren's disappearance. And shortly after that, Jay Rosenbaum agreed to meet with her and her husband Rob at a Starbucks. He retold his recollection of the night that she went missing. It was pretty consistent, except this time he said he was actually at the bar with them that night. So before, he said that he and his friend had gone to the bar and like seen them, but now he's saying, no, I was there with them. We were all hanging out. That's a pretty big change. He also said he was, quote, now 100% positive that he had gone upstairs to his balcony and watched Lauren walk off toward her building, and said again that he had seen a shadowy figure walking on College Avenue. This time he said the figure was going towards Lauren and it appeared to be closing in on her when she turned the corner. If this is true, why would you not intercede at this point?
Yeah.
Your tiny drunk friend is walking home at 4 a.m. She's wasted. There's a creepy, shadowy man closing in on her. She's none the wiser, and she doesn't even have shoes on to run from him. And you're like, huh, weird. Oh, well, I'm going to go to bed. Insane. The story sounds whack. It sounds completely unbelievable. But if that is what happened, fuck you.
Yeah.
You asshole. What a fucking dick. Either way, dick. There's really no shortage of dickheads in this story, I tell you.
No, there's not.
With the 2-year anniversary of Lauren's disappearance coming up fast, Lauren's family's legal team was like, if you guys are trying to get anything going in civil court, this is the time. You got to do it now. So her parents filed a civil suit against Jay Rosenbaum, Corey Rossman, and Mike Beth, the last 3 people to see her. This was more strategic rather than financially motivated, though. I think their hope was that they'd have to share more information, they'd have to sign sworn affidavits, and the Spieres would have the power of discovery on their side. It was essentially a wrongful death suit, implicating these 3 as having contributed to Lauren's demise based on these 3 legal arguments. So the first one is negligence resulting in the disappearance, death, or injury of an adult or child, which basically just means that as parents, you have the right to pursue legal action if your child dies or is harmed. The second one is negligence per se, which is saying because Lauren was with these guys, they had a duty of care, and by letting her leave in the state she was in, they failed to meet that standard. And the third is what's called a dram shop argument, which usually only applies to bars that have overserved someone, and then that person will drive drunk and get injured or injure somebody else. But I guess in Indiana, it can also apply to people who, quote, furnish others with alcoholic drinks. So in other words, they're saying they're the ones that were getting her fucked up, so ultimately they're responsible. But in the end, the burden of proof on these 3 men was found to be insufficient, and the case was dismissed. They apparently also wanted to sue Jesse Wolf, the boyfriend, but they couldn't do that because they couldn't prove that he was with her at all that night. This in turn pissed off Jesse's parents, and they made a statement basically saying that Lauren was gone because she was a drug addict and their son was nothing but this noble protector of this very troubled girl. His mother said, quote, my son took care of her for 2 years while she was in college. The one night she went out without him and did what she did unfortunately cost her her life.
Oh God, fuck off. I can picture what that mom probably looks like.
We all can. We all know that haircut. It's I mean, I get it. Like, obviously, if you feel someone's attacking your son, you're going to bite back. But, like, have a little class.
Yeah.
It's fucked up. By 2013, the last of Lauren's missing billboards had come down around Indiana. Her parents tried every avenue, contacting psychics, amateur crime stoppers, and web sleuths. They chased every lead they could, no matter how weird or innocuous it seemed. I'm going to go through some of these alternative theories real quick. Mm-hmm. And, just kind of tell you a couple little tidbits that they found out while they were doing their own sort of investigative work. You're going to be intrigued by these, I think. So one tip led them to a convicted sex offender that worked at the Taco Bell right next to Sports. Mm. And he would have been working the night that she vanished. Again, I went to that Taco Bell all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
2 a.m. You need a fucking caramel apple fritter.
Yeah, what's his name?
Didn't say.
Okay.
Just that he was a convicted sex offender. There were also 2 registered sex offenders that worked at the Waffle House across the street from her apartment. That one hurt because I went to that Waffle House all the time.
Yeah.
It was the only place that was 24 hours, and I had insomnia, and when I couldn't sleep, I would walk over there, whatever, 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and sit and have coffee and pie for like hours and read or draw or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, yeah, there are also 2 registered sex offenders that work there. Again, don't know their names, but it's just wild, the shit that you don't think about.
Yeah.
Another witness later said they saw a young woman matching Lauren's description a couple of blocks from her last known location at about 4 a.m. They said she looked dazed and kind of out of it. When a turquoise Dodge truck drove up, the driver got out, grabbed her by the arm, pulled her into the truck, then stared them down and drove off. But again, I think they tried to follow up on this lead, but nothing ever came of it. To me, that sounds more like a domestic dispute.
Yeah.
But who knows? This one's real creepy. Another couple claimed that after they bought a house at auction in Indianapolis, they went to go clean it out because it was still full of the previous owner's shit. And they found clippings about Lauren's disappearance all over the place, like serial killer style. The son of the person they bought the house from, Scott Joseph Cooper, was a former Indianapolis policeman who was convicted of child exploitation. I think like 4 different charges of it.
Ew.
At the time of Lauren's disappearance, he was living in Greenwood, Indiana, which is only about 50 minutes north of Bloomington. His house was actually searched with cadaver dogs, the whole 9 yards, but nothing ever came of that either.
Oh, yeah, that one's really creepy.
Got another one. An inmate ended up reaching out to BPD from prison, claiming that his former cellmate, a guy named Corey Hammersley, claimed to know who was responsible for Lauren's disappearance. Hammersley was serving time for essentially shooting up an off-campus party in 2012. He alleged that some guys he knew had been partying with Lauren when she overdosed on ecstasy. They panicked and got rid of her remains in the Ohio River. Police confronted him about it, and he recanted. So, that's the end of that.
Were those people he knew, like the Corey and his crew?
I don't think it ever said. I don't think he ever said who it was. He just was, they were like, what's up with this? And he was like, oh yeah, I made that up.
This is third-hand information, so this is not, I'm not saying that this, I did not hear this come out of anybody's mouth, but a friend told me that a mutual friend was at a party in Smallwood, like after it happened, and some girl from New Jersey got up on a table and said that Lauren was dumped in the Ohio River.
Well, that's interesting because that's what this guy said. Creepy.
Yeah. Third-hand info, can't verify that.
But that's the thing. I'm like, if people are getting drunk and saying this, there's no way that, and if so many people supposedly know what happened, there's no way they're all going to keep quiet for this long. Mm-hmm. It's just not like that. Yeah. People don't do that.
Another secondhand theory that I've heard that, again, this is secondhand. What she told me, I cannot validate whether or not this is true, but she told me that she was also at a party at Smallwood shortly after and was told, I don't know which of that group of men that you had talked about, I don't remember which one she said it was, but she said that she had talked to someone in that group who was accused, and he told her exactly what happened and where Lauren's body was and how they disposed of it. But she also told me that going to the police with that information is pointless because the accused men are so wealthy that the law can't touch them.
I mean, that could be true.
So yeah, again, secondhand info. I was not able to, I had reached out to this friend to see if she would revalidate this info before this podcast, and it didn't work out.
If they had a body, if the police had a body, they could potentially pull DNA off of it, and if there's DNA, it doesn't matter how much money they have. Well, that's not true.
Yeah. She said that she did tell the police this tip, but that they wouldn't do anything about it, and they wouldn't, just because of how rich those kids were, that like the law can't touch them. I don't know. I don't know how true that is.
I don't know. It's interesting. Listen,
let's hear more of the theories.
There's culpability.
Sure.
Then in 2015, Daniel Messel was arrested for the murder of 22-year-old IU senior Hannah Wilson. Mm-hmm. She, like Lauren, had been drinking in downtown Bloomington on a Thursday night, ended up at Sports, same bar, where she quickly was deemed too drunk to enter, and her friends put her in a cab and sent her home. Her body would be found the next morning near a state road in Brown County. Daniel Meisel was a real piece of shit. He was a moron, too. He left his cell phone at the site where he dumped her body. So, I mean, it doesn't get much more clumsy than that. It didn't take them long at all to find him. He had a long record of offenses. After his conviction for Hannah's murder, he apparently bragged to his cellmate about how he would cruise around campus in the dead of night looking for drunk women walking home alone so that he could assault them.
That's so scary.
Disgusting. I mean, we lived there at that time. Who knows? Like we said, we used to walk home drunk all the time.
All the time.
So police are thinking, this looks pretty promising, finally. Especially after he was convicted of an assault and kidnapping that took place in 2012. So he was already serving a life sentence for Hannah's murder at this point. But another victim came forward after he was arrested and was like, hey, that guy also abducted and assaulted me. So he was indicted for those charges as well. But once again, there was no evidence to support this theory. It was investigated as a valid possibility, but ultimately they just couldn't find anything to link Daniel Meisel to Lauren, aside from speculation and a pattern. So once again, that's a dead end. Weird conspiracy shit that I came up with super quick. Just bear with me and let me spiral for 1 second.
Okay.
Daniel Meisel was employed at a local copy shop called Fine Print. Let's assume for a moment that he did abduct and murder Lauren. How crazy would it be, and I know it's a stretch, if he did abduct her on her walk from Jay's townhouse to her apartment, murdered her, and then her parents went into that print shop where he worked to make flyers.
Yeah.
Because it's Bloomington, there's only so many print shops. I know that's a stretch, but like this small town shit, like
yeah.
Again, I know it's a stretch, but that would be so terrible. Okay. That's all. I was very tired when I wrote that part. I was just like, oh my God, what if... Anyway. We do have one more proposed theory worth mentioning, and to me it's by far the scariest one because it involves an infamous serial killer, and it would put that infamous serial killer in Bloomington at the time that we were both living there. I find him to be probably the scariest serial killer of our lifetime, and I'm referring to the terrifying Israel Keyes. If you haven't heard of him, here's a very brief rundown. He was born in Utah in 1978, so at the time of Lauren's disappearance, he would have been 33. So young, able-bodied. He served in the military from 1998 to 2001. He was very, very, very smart, very big, strong, very calculated. He was arrested in 2012 for the abduction, rape, and murder of 18-year-old Samantha Koenig in Anchorage, Alaska. At the time of his arrest, he revealed the names of 3 additional victims, but during his interrogation, he alluded to the FBI that he had killed a great many more throughout his travels. We're talking potentially 20 to 100 victims.
Oh, wow.
He would plan his attacks with painstaking detail. For example, he once traveled from Alaska to Chicago, then rented a car and drove over 1,000 miles to commit a murder in Vermont. So you couldn't track him.
Did he just choose the
strangers
spot and then would choose a stranger in that spot?
He would just hop from one place to the next so that you couldn't, so it wouldn't make sense, you know?
Oh.
You'd be like, why would this guy from Anchorage fly to Vermont?
Sure.
How would he get there? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
His victims were always strangers. He would fly and drive all across the country burying these kill kits, which were basically these big gallon buckets containing weapons and large amounts of cash. He would bury them in different states, only to return to them years later when he was ready to commit a murder.
Wow.
Now, he died by suicide in his cell in 2012 before he could go to trial or give agents any more information about possible victims. Also, at one of his arraignments, he was sitting handcuffed, and he managed to get the handcuffs off and lunged at this girl that was sitting in the audience, and it took like 8 people to restrain him.
Oh my God.
He's terrifying. I highly suggest you watch a documentary, watch some interviews. There's also audio of that incident from court, and it's terrifying.
So were there any like actual connections to Lauren, or was it just
no?
like,
But he didn't have connections to any of his victims.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just like a theory that it could have been.
Well, it's actually a pretty plausible one. I'll tell you why. Like I said, he died by suicide in his cell in 2012 before he could go to trial or give agents any more information about possible victims. It's suspected that there are many more victims. According to his travel patterns and vehicle rental history, Israel Keys was in the Midwest in the summer of 2011. There is a travel spreadsheet I found on ABC Local that documents exactly where he was from 2004 to 2012 via ticket receipts and car rental history. On June 3rd, Israel Keys made multiple transactions on an Indiana toll road.
Oh.
So he was in Indiana on June 3rd. That's been verified. That's the day Lauren went missing.
Yeah.
Very weird coincidence. It's the only date in Indiana. By June 8th, he was in Essex, Vermont. This could be a complete coincidence, but still, very weird.
Yeah.
Either way, he was in Indiana when we were in Indiana. That makes me feel sick.
Yeah. That's really scary.
Still, even with all these theories that some stranger had abducted Lauren after she left the townhouse, the prevailing theory is that those 4 boys had something to do with her disappearance. One possible version is that Lauren suffered an accidental overdose when she got back to Corey's townhouse, one that probably started taking effect on their walk. The theory posits that Corey called Jay, they took her to Jay's. Jay called her friend David and Mike Schwartz, her drug dealer, maybe to try to figure out what she had taken. This theory alleges that Jay's visiting friend, David Blesnick, then drove Lauren's body back to Michigan and perhaps dumped it or buried it somewhere along the way. Police never searched the car, because they had the 2 friends that were visiting. One was Alex Ferber, one was the guy Blesnick. They never searched their car, and they left like a couple days after she went missing.
Why, if I'm kind of leaning towards it being related to those guys, but why do you think that they would hide her body instead of, or just like calling an ambulance, or like,
I mean, stupidity and panic, because they would be implicated.
Yeah.
They would be culpable to some degree. I mean, also they'd be outed for partying and drinking and whatever, you know.
But they already, because of her disappearance, they already are.
True, but
Yeah.
they're young, fucked up.
Yeah.
They're probably not thinking that far ahead. Allegedly, again.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened, but another theory is that after overdosing, the 4 young men buried her body at the construction site next door. Because again, remember the next day it got filled in with concrete?
Mm-hmm.
This was suggested to police from an IU student who claimed to have heard through the grapevine that Corey Rossman got drunk one night and admitted it himself. But again, these are just rumors.
Yeah, there's a lot of like through the grapevine.
A lot of through the grapevine, because people love to talk, especially when they're drinking. Let's go back to Corey Rossman for a second in the alley, making calls on his cell phone. Remember, he attempted to make a call at 2:55 in the morning and got no answer.
Mm-hmm.
He called that number again at 2:22 the next day. He was on the phone for 3 minutes during that call. That number belonged to a girl named Brooke Bullins, his good friend from Sharon, Massachusetts. She was 4 years younger than him, which everybody thought was kind of weird, but I guess they were great friends. They used to party together in his hometown. We don't know why he made those calls. We still don't. Elliot Lewis, who owned many businesses in Bloomington and still lives in the area, says it's highly unlikely that Lauren walked out of the townhouse that night. He said if she had, she wouldn't have had to take more than a few steps before she would have been picked up on some surveillance. Apparently there were cameras on several of the buildings that were just around the corner. So he says something would have picked something up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the weirdest parts is that there is no surveillance videos because that it's not like a rural part of town. Like it's
No.
really close. It's a very busy
And it's
part
all
of
campus
town.
apartments. They
Yeah.
all have cameras.
Yeah.
The author of the book, College Girl Missing, which is where I got 8% of my information for this episode, did retrace Lauren's steps in Bloomington. He even got the current tenants of Jay's townhouse to let him go up on their balcony and check it out, check out the basement, etc. He also tried many times to get in touch with Bloomington Police Chief Dykoff,
Dicka.
but he left him on red, in a manner of speaking. He did manage to talk to some former members of BPD that had since retired from the force, and a lot of them mentioned their frustration with how the case was handled from the jump, that it took way too long to get the ball rolling, that a lot of potential leads were either only briefly entertained or altogether ignored. One said that the case, quote, didn't even reach a supervisor for 6 or 7 hours, so she'd already been missing for hours. Like, that was after they did the missing persons report. By the time investigations had started in earnest, he said all the rich kids had lawyered up. Shawn Cohen, the author, managed to track down that friend from Sharon, Massachusetts, Brooke Bullens, and asked her to her face what she and Corey talked about for 3 minutes the next day, why he had tried to call her that night in that alley. She claimed she couldn't remember. After their meeting, Brooke's mother, Mary, called Shawn back and told him that after Lauren went missing, Brooke warned her, quote, Mom, Corey said the FBI is listening in on our phone calls, so just be careful on the phone what you talk about. And then she said, quote, now I'm thinking maybe he has something to hide.
How I feel like not remembering what they talked about is such bullshit because that's such like a monumental thing that happened.
Right.
Like, how would you not? You are a part of this case where like that's like this huge news story, like this crazy thing that just happened. Like you were probably going to remember.
Well, if you believe his version of events, at that point he probably didn't even know she was missing yet, according to him.
Yeah.
Because it was 2:30 or whatever the next day. But again, it's just like, none of these things in and of themselves are incriminating, but they're weird.
Yeah.
And they don't make sense, especially when the shit keeps changing.
Yeah.
When Shawn Cohen asked the Spieers directly in 2022 if they thought Lauren was still alive, they said no, with her mother adding, quote, I feel that if she never met Corey Rossman, she'd be alive today. At the end of this book, Shawn Cohen included a brief interview he gave after it was published. He was asked, quote, do you believe the culprit will ever be found and the case closed? This was his answer. Quote, short answer, yes. We know at least one person was involved. Despite the passage of time, the answer is still only a phone call away. And unfortunately, that is where the story ends. Because Lauren's case is still unsolved. She's still missing. And to this day, no one has ever answered for her disappearance. So now I have to ask you, Haley, having heard all the facts, all the theories, what do you think happened to Lauren on the night of June 3rd, 2011?
I think Corey has something to do with it. It's also shady. I don't know why he would not, like, if she had overdosed, why not just, like, call the police or call an ambulance? I don't understand the thinking. But
I mean, I think it's the same logic that a lot of people use when they do actually very validly kill someone in self-defense, and instead of calling the police and being like, I just had to defend myself, they dispose of the body or whatever,
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just panic.
Yeah.
Also, we all know the police are terrible.
Yeah.
And that they fuck things up all the time and put innocent people in jail all the time.
That's true. I also, while I do think that, I feel like Corey probably had something to do with it. I think it's crazy that there's so many people involved and none of them have come forward after all this time with guilt or
It's very much an
remorse.
I know what you did last summer kind of situation.
Yeah.
Where it's like, You're all really going to just take this to your graves?
Yeah.
I think that's a plausible theory.
What is your top theory?
The thing that I keep coming back to is just that I don't believe their version of events because I don't believe that Lauren could have physically walked out of their apartment. When you think of how much was in her system and the fact that she had just hit her head twice.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a detail I didn't know. I had not previously known.
If she's passed out when she gets there, you really think she's going to pop up like 20 minutes later and be like, woo, okay, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, you said
I'm going to go.
He had to like carry her over
they
his
were
shoulder.
Carrying her. He was carrying her before she hit her head, and then she hit her head twice.
And if they were willing to just let her go after all that, they're so fucking shitty.
If that is what happened, like, I don't know. To me, that's just as bad as if she had died, succumbed to an overdose, or maybe her heart condition was triggered by all of the shit she had taken.
Yeah.
She could have gotten a fucking subdural hematoma because she hit her head, and just died of a blood clot.
Yeah.
But why would you let her leave? Especially with no shoes, no phone, no keys to her apartment.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you think she's going to do? And they called those two guys that lived in the building, and neither of them answered. So it's not even like the police could go to one of the two of them and be like, oh yeah, we had answered and we were going to come down and let her in, but she never showed up or something, like, I think she must have died there because I don't think she could have walked home.
Yeah.
I don't think she ever regained consciousness.
Following what her mom had said that she would still be alive if she hadn't met Corey, do you think that she's implying that Corey is responsible? Or just
the thing is that I think that ultimately Lauren made the decision to consume what she did.
Yeah.
That, that's her responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that, and that is what it is. If she was around people who were less inebriated than she, that had seen her becoming unresponsive, 100% it's on them. They should have called her an ambulance.
Yeah.
I don't think that... It doesn't sound to me like any of them killed her.
Yeah.
Because if they had, there would have been DNA. Because these aren't evil geniuses. They're not criminal masterminds. So if she did die, I don't necessarily think that it was... I don't think that she was murdered.
Sure, yeah.
I don't think that any of them murdered her. Yeah. I think that they maybe didn't prevent her death.
Yeah.
And then covered it up.
Yeah.
And I think it could have been as easy as, she's so little, you throw her in a dumpster. The next morning the trash comes, and that's the end of that.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody...
I don't buy the dumpster concrete theory, though, because, one, do you really think those college kids, like, who are so rich, like, and probably have never taken the trash out in their life, do you think they know when trash day is?
I don't know. Maybe, because maybe if it comes every morning at like 5 a.m. and they're hungover and they get woken up, they're like, oh, fuck trash. So they know. Like, I don't know. It's possible that they put her in a car and drove her someplace, but I feel like I don't know, because the police never checked the car. So, and he was the visiting friend was the only one that had a car. None of the other kids had cars.
Oh, okay.
So if she was taken somewhere...
That's crazy. They never checked his car.
They're idiots, man. They botched it. I think the only reason Hannah Wilson's case was solved is because the fucking murderer literally had his phone under her body. And they're like, oh, hey, what's this?
What an idiot.
You guys think maybe this has something to do with... I don't know. What do you think? I do think that the Israel Keys theory is not as far-fetched or crazy as you might think, because it was not outside of his wheelhouse to just show up in a random place and find a stranger and kill them.
What did he typically do with his victims after he killed them?
Well, I don't know, because the only one that he murdered a couple and he left them in their house. I believe. And then the girl in Anchorage that he murdered, he actually kidnapped her, and it's all on camera. Because she worked in like a coffee kiosk in Anchorage, like one of those little.
Yeah.
And I think she worked like late nights. So he basically waited until she was closing, and then he just like walked up, and there's footage of it. He just jumps in the window like a cat. He's just like whoop, and he's just inside. And then he let her out at gunpoint, took her to his house where he lived with his wife and his little child daughter,
Oh, God.
and kept her in a shed and assaulted her. And then contacted her parents asking for ransom money.
Wow. Holy shit.
Sent them a picture of her with a newspaper so they could be like, yep, it's her, she's alive. It was later found that she was actually dead when that picture was taken, and he had like either sewn or glued her eyes open.
Oh my God.
He's psychotic.
Yeah. So there wasn't like,
I think he put her in like a frozen lake.
okay, so every victim was a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
And
it's not really speculated on like if it was him, like what he would have done with
I
her.
think he would have disposed of the body in an intelligent way, in an intelligent, strategic, inconspicuous way, because he was smart and capable enough and a experienced enough killer to be able to do that.
Do we know what these kids are up to now? Like, what does Corey do these days? Is he...
You know, there's actually an article that I had found, but it was not very recent. It was from like 2015 or something. And honestly, I didn't read it all because those guys are so boring and ugly, and I just didn't care.
Yeah, like I'm sure... Like,
I'm sure they're all doing great.
I know, that pisses me off. Even if they had nothing to do with it, like all these people are such douchebags, and they fucking suck. They suck so much. They're such... Like,
do you know what any of them look like either?
No, I can picture them in my
You want to
brain.
see? I got a picture of them right here.
Yeah.
You're gonna be extremely dismayed by how ugly and lame all these guys look.
Ew. And they all look the
This
same.
one?
They all look like
The worst
God.
one. This is Corey Rossman.
ew.
Hideous. Like, what?
Yeah, what the fuck? I mean, they look exactly like I pictured. Like, just such boring, like, stereotypical rich white dudes.
This is Jay. We're going to post this.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know this isn't very interesting audio, but I just wanted Haley to see how ugly and lame and stupid and boring these guys look. It can't be described. Y'all are going to have to wait until we post it.
God.
Do you think that this case will be resolved?
I really hope so. Her family deserves closure. I don't know how. I don't know if it'll be...
I don't think the police are really investing any more resources or money in this. So I feel like at this point it would really take a confession or some kind of tip that would lead them to concrete evidence.
I hope that maybe someone it'll like just be so heavy on their conscience that they decide to eventually fess up.
I personally don't think that Corey or Jay would say shit. Maybe the roommate. Maybe Mike Beth.
Yeah.
Or the visiting friend.
I feel like it'll be one of them. It'll be one of the side characters, not any of the main characters.
Yeah. Maybe one of them will like have a daughter or something and be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Now the guilt has gotten me. I don't know. Either way, so much information.
Yeah, that was very well researched. Good job.
Thank you. It was fascinating. I did not know so many of those details.
You got that book not that long ago. How quick did you read it?
Like 3 days.
Wow.
I mean, I read little bits, but I basically read it over the course of like 2 weeks and then had to reread it while taking notes and like outlining everything.
Sure.
It's a quick little read, though. It's not crazy long. I think it's only like 250 pages.
And worth mentioning that it was written with the permission of the family.
It everything was on the up and up.
Yeah.
And apparently the author and Lauren's parents are pretty close, and she like sent Lauren's mom sent him like a stuffed animal when his daughter was born, and they're on good terms now. I think initially when it was still happening and the case was unfolding and he was investigating, they were pretty pissed because he was like finding out some things about their daughter that was hard to hear. To me, it just sounds like Lauren was inwardly very unhappy.
Yeah.
Sounds like she was partying to punish herself a bit.
Maybe. Also, I mean, yeah, probably, yes, most likely. But, I mean, at that time period, I mean, I don't think kids drink as much as, like, the previous generation, like, as much as we did. But in that time period specifically, I drank so heavily. I wasn't doing drugs, but I, like, would pregame with, like, a bottle of wine, or I would pregame with, like, a Four Loko, or, like, a 6-pack of, like, I drank so much. And I think that was just so common in Bloomington, and specifically during that time period.
If it was just alcohol, I would say yes.
But it was like the drugs too.
When you get into the, I mean,
you're right.
You're not. I don't think you're drinking a bottle of wine and like however many shots, doing uppers, and then snorting 6 or however many lines of Klonopin. If you're trying to just be like, wee, you know, because at that point you're like, I'm not gonna fucking remember anything that happens tonight. So if it's like self-medicating or just kind of trying to like turn your brain off, block something out, I don't know. Sounds like she was under a lot of pressure. She had some academic shit, and I think it sounds like she was had a lot of empathy and maybe just was trying to please a lot of people. I don't know. I think she just wanted to be like a carefree college kid, but she was kind of at the mercy of this possessive boyfriend, and she felt like, and she did care about him, but she also felt like she was constantly disappointing him because she couldn't live up to his expectations, but maybe she wasn't sure if she wanted to, or it sounds like she didn't want to cut him loose because she cared about him, but she also just wanted to be like single and 20, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of pressure, especially when you're also still in school, and it's hard being a woman, man.
Yeah, it really is.
If you have any theories yourself about what happened to Lauren, or if you're local and you want to borrow my copy of the book so you don't have to pay for it. Again, that was a summary, so the book it goes into way more depth, but I would love if y'all have any theories you'd like to share. We would love to hear what you guys think. We would love to hear about it, so please send us an email, send us a DM, what have you. All right, to wrap this up, do you want to do some true crime trivia? Let's go. Let's see which one I choose. Okay. Do you know anything about Son of Sam? A bit. What did the son of Sam claim was giving him orders to kill? His dog. Yeah. Well, his neighbor's dog. Oh yeah, his neighbor's dog. In the apartment complex. He heard it through the walls. Wow, that's way more detailed than this. Okay, you can try again. I'm sorry. Okay. I jumped the gun on that. I relate to the son of Sam in that way. The dog. Because often I think that my neighbor's dogs are talking to me. Who operated an elaborate murder castle during the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago? A. John Wayne Gacy. B. H.H. Holmes? Yeah. Yeah. All right. You know your stuff. Yeah. There's a really cool documentary on that guy, actually. It's on Netflix. It's terrifying. He basically turned his boarding house into like a Rube Goldberg torture chamber and crematorium. Oh. He killed so many people. God, I hate that. Fucking crazy. True or false? One of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims escaped but was returned to him by the police. That is true. That's fucked up. That is true. It's fucked up. And it was a minor. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was like, I don't even remember. Like really young. Like 14 to 17, I think. And he was bleeding. Visibly bleeding. Jesus. And Jeffrey was like, oh no, this is my boyfriend. We had a disagreement, and the cops were like, okay, fine, take him.
Well, you aced that quiz.
I get an A+.
All right. Should we
Thank
wrap
you.
up?
We're going to wrap this up now, but we will be back in 2 weeks. Is that
Maybe
right?
3 weeks.
We'll
we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
I'm actually going out of town next week. I'll be in Bloomington.
Haley's going to be in Bloomington. You should
Investigate.
Yeah. I mean, you could, at the very least, you could go, you could potentially walk that last route. You could walk past Smallwood. It's not called Smallwood anymore. It's called something else.
Oh, interesting.
Bad press. Go figure.
Yeah.
But you could.
All right. Well, we'll see what my family wants to do.
You just be like, yeah, Mom, I just want to go down this weird alley for no particular reason. It's cool, right? This will be fun.
Fun family outing. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll be back when we're back.
We'll be back when we're back. Get off our back. Sometimes you get it.
Sometimes you get it.
Good night.
Good night.
Sweet dreams.
This episode edited by 88.8.